Welcome back to the NPK Show. It's episode 9 and we're talking about the environment, everything from temperature to humidity to air movement, CO2, and then the microenvironment all around the roots, that EC, that pH, and that water temperature. Dead exciting. Dead quick though. Why is there another chair there?
You know what? I'm glad you've just asked me about that, because there's actually been a lot of good feedback about T2. So what I've decided is that T2 is going to be a more permanent fixture of the show. So, welcome back, T2. Well, thanks for having me back. So, what's this episode all about?
Well, we're actually talking about the environment today. And I know an environment that clones don't like. Gas, gas, gas!
So did you really need to use that much gas, Steve? Probably not, but I needed to get rid of bloody T2. Well, you know what? We've got the environment, and it's a bit foggy in this environment. And today's episode, we're going to teach people about the environment. Yeah. How plants breathe, how to make their environment a lot better. And if you don't get the environment correct, you're going to need more than a gas mask. Yeah. I'm just happy that T2's gone now. Well, actually, T2's going to be more of a permanent fixture. Do me a favour. T2, can mind that. Put that over there for T2.
So where's my gas mask?
You're not getting a gas mask. You just look after that EC junction. We're going to go and talk about environment. Let's go. Come on. So that smoke went pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It was alright then.
Yeah, it was. It's a good job we had our gas masks on though to help us breathe properly.
Very good job.
Yeah.
Good purchase.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to talk... Hang on, can we take these off now?
Yeah, let's just take them off.
Yeah, it's getting a bit hot in here.
Yeah.
That's better,
I can breathe better now. So,
It's a bit scary him looking up at the floor on me.
not as scary as you.
Whatever. Extraction.
Yeah.
So, the first thing to consider is your extraction. We've just shown there how an extraction fan can take all of your air out the room, and what we need to think about is how many times per minute or per hour do you want to move the air?
Yeah.
And that's our extraction fans. So if you're going to do the equations, there's some really hard equations that you can get your head around. Then it's the size of the room, width by length, by depth, by height and all that stuff. But the easiest way, and the way that I use, is to move 400 metres cubed of air an hour for every 600 watt light you've got.
Yeah.
So if you've got 4 600 watt lights, you're going to want to move roughly 1600 metres cubed of air an hour.
Yeah.
If you've got 2 lights, you want to use 800 metres cubed of air an hour.
Yeah.
And the fan that you're going to pick will have a number on the side. It will say something like 600 M3/H, meters cubed of air an hour. And that's what we need to think about when we're building our grow room.
It's the key factor. It's the main emphasis to what we're trying to explain. Is basically fan and filter sizes aren't just the size of the flange, i.e. from 4" up to 12". A fan and filter is also about how much air it moves.
Exactly.
So what speed does this fan run at, and then what filter you have to match that accurate speed for the size of the room that you have. Exactly. And this will all help your plants breathe correctly.
Exactly, and it goes back to when the very beginning of the season when we were talking about building a grow room and making sure you know your measurements, because you know your measurements, you know how many lights that you can put in there. When you know how many lights you can put in there, you know how big your fan needs to be. When you know how big your fan needs to be, you know how big your filter needs to be. And it's got a big knock-on effect like that. If you don't think about one of these aspects, then it can all go a little bit Pete-tong.
Definitely, air and extraction is one of the most major keys to growing, especially indoors. And you're going to need to get these equations right for your room and for your tent or for your place of where you're growing. These equations are going to have to be spot on so they can manage the amount of heat that it needs to remove out of this room.
Definitely. However, if you've got a multiple of lights, then you're going to need active air in, which simply means using a small fan to push your air into the room. This does a couple of things. It takes the load off the fan. So if you haven't got your air in and you're trying to draw a lot of air out, it's going to put a lot of strain on the extraction fan and reduce its lifespan and its effectiveness. And also, an active air in is going to reduce temperatures a lot better than a passive air in when you've got multiple lights.
Things to watch out for when you are using an active air in is to make sure the size isn't greater than your extraction fan.
Yeah.
Because that's going to cause you some really big issues if you're pushing more air in than you're actually removing from the room.
Positive pressure.
Also, to make sure that when your lights are going off, your active air in is not cooling your room too much, because all of the lights are now off and you are now pushing in cold air to the room. So that's a top tip to watch out for these things.
So do you have our active air in on a timer?
Yes, we do.
So at the very basics, we could put that into a plug and grow timer and have it going off when the lights go off.
Yeah. Also, your humidity level. You'd have to monitor your humidity level when you're bringing in additional air. That's going to alter your humidity. So if you're in a vegetative period and you want to require a high humidity, that will alter it a bit. So you need to monitor that also as well as your extraction.
Yeah. Well, that brings us on nicely to humidity. We're going to move around the lab and show you some of the humidifier options you can use.
Do we really need this humidifier on right now?
Yeah, great. You know, I love to veg out, and this is my perfect environment. It's lovely and cool as well.
But we're not talking about the veg period, we're talking about humidity. So we'll switch it off for now.
Can I have it back on later though?
Maybe later.
Okay. Voice control HR15.
Yeah.
Bet you're not using got any of that, have you? There you go. You happy now?
Yeah.
You're a flower and I'm a veg.
Okay.
No, that doesn't sound great, but...
Well, anyway, that's enough of your bad jokes. We're here to talk about humidity.
Okay. So we came from the extraction end of the room.
Yeah.
Over there with our intake over here.
Yeah.
Opposite ends of the room. But what happens when we start making changes to our extraction if we turn it up or turn it down?
It's going to alter the humidity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we've got multiple lights in the room and it starts to get a little bit hot, of course, you're going to then want to turn your extraction up to remove the hot air.
Yeah.
And then you're going to decrease your humidity because it's all getting sucked out. Similarly, if you got your extraction full power and you want to increase your air in, cold air in is going to drop the temperature, and you're also going to probably drop your humidity as well.
Yeah.
So humidity, very quickly, let's go through it. What do clones like? What humidity do clones like?
Clones love high humidity,
Yeah.
so they're going to be requiring a humidity of between 70 and 90%.
Yeah.
That's going to keep them really active and moving very quickly.
Yeah.
It's going to have them reproducing lots of root very rapidly, and the root growth will be very intense. If your humidity is too low, you're going to have some slow growing clones. Your root development will be really poor. So when you have clones or small plants, you really need a high humidity. If you haven't got a high humidity of between 70 and 90%, you need to rectify that straight away.
Young veg plants, we can start to come down a little bit, around 65 to 70%.
Yeah.
late veg, when plants are really starting to drink and can look after themselves a little bit,
Yeah.
you can probably have it around 55 to 65%.
Yeah.
And as we come into flower, you can take it down to about 40%.
Yeah, you're going to really need to remove the humidity, especially if your humidity is quite high in the flowering period. If it's still up there at 80%, you're going to really need to reduce that, because it's going to cause you some future problems with botrytis and some rot and mould.
Yeah. Just thinking now, did you say that clones love a high humidity?
They do.
Just bear with me 1 minute, I'll be back.
Where's he gone? Hey, where is he gone?
What are you doing in there?
Some water.
That's the humidity so low.
It's depressing.
You look a little bit fatigued and tired.
It's a nightmare.
Listen, I know we always haven't got along, but there's a place where there's hundreds of humidifiers. The vapor pressure deficit's really small. I think you're gonna love it.
Really? Are you going to take me?
If you want to go, only if you want to go without.
It's no good here.
I know, 36% in here. No good for you as a clone.
No.
Come on, I'm gonna take you somewhere. Let's go. Come on. Don't worry. I love it in there. Look at that. I've done that just for you.
Tell me. I like how that sounds. Do you like what you hear? Come listen to more at AtomicCellMusic.com. Do you like what you hear? Come listen to more at AtomicCellMusic.com.
Steve, where are you?
Just let the neck up for a little minute.
What have you been doing? We're trying to do the show with you, mate.
Nothing.
What
Sorry
are you
about
doing
that.
with that mask?
Kids know that, you know that. Nothing happened.
Are you ready to go now, are you?
Yeah.
All right.
We talk about humidity and why it was important.
Yeah.
About all that.
Okay.
So, when we talk about humidity, we really want to get into the nitty gritty of it and get into VPD, vapor pressure deficit. It's a big word, but it's really important. Rather than just looking at your hygrometer and knowing that it's at 40, 60, 70, 80%, it's good to know how the plant's handling humidity. And vapor pressure deficit, in a basic nutshell, will mean how the plant's responding in its environment, what the pressure difference is between the plant and the area outside.
Okay.
So if the area outside is really dry and the plant has got a lot of moisture, it's going to lose that moisture because the pressure deficit is great, so it's going to try and equalise itself.
How are we going to measure that though and monitor that?
You got to watch your plant.
Okay.
It's about being a plant whisperer. So
Okay.
VPD is quite hard to measure with a piece of equipment.
Okay.
But watching the plant, seeing if it's starting to wilt, or is it up, praying, is it happy, we can start to have an idea of the vapour pressure deficit. Keeping an eye on temperatures, humidity, airflow around the plant, and we can gauge ourselves what the VPD is going to be.
Okay, so top tip for that is keep an eye on your plant. Make sure you're looking at the leaves as well. You need to make sure your leaves are continuously nice and flat. Make sure they're breathing. Make sure that there's no bolt leaf or any strange things. The leaf tips curling up, the around the edges curling up, the drying off, anything like that are telltale signs of something going on with your environment.
Now, if we can't get our humidity up, what do?
You install a humidifier.
What options have we got for them?
Okay, so we have got a HR50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the smaller version as well, the HR15.
Yes.
So the HR15,
Yeah.
very good piece of kit. It's going to do a room for about 6 metres. Well, this room's perfect, 6 metres by 3 metres. It's great. It does about 100 litres every couple of days. That's what we're going through.
Yeah.
But the HR50 is if you've got a much bigger room. If you need to put more humidity into the room, it's the HR50 you want again.
Yeah.
And these come with controls as well.
Yeah.
So you'll set your humidity at 60, 70, 80%. When it gets above that, it'll shut off. When it's below that, it'll just pump an amount of water vapour into the air to increase your humidity.
So this is just another tool to help you increase the benefits for your plants and to help you be able to control your growing area perfectly without any issues.
Yeah. So these can be quite expensive and they're really for rooms. If you haven't got a budget or a big room that will require one of these humidifiers, you've got the humidifier. You've got a H humidifier.
Yeah.
There is no number for this one. This is the humidifier.
This is a budget line humidifier. It's 50 quid. It holds, I think, 5 litres.
6 one if you fill it back to the top.
6 litres of water. What I found this really good for is your tents and small rooms.
Yeah.
Top tip about it, it has a dial on it so you can set how much vapour is going to come out. But a top tip with this one to extend the amount of how long it's going to run for is I put a timer on it.
Yeah.
Put maybe 2 15-minute segments on the pin timer every couple of hours, and then it'll continuously burst at them set times into the room, and it'll extend the lifespan of the water in the tank, and it'll increase your humidity successfully.
It's a great top tip because if you don't do that, this will be drained within 18 hours. It means a constant 6 litres of water every day, which you don't want to have to do.
No.
So good products if you need to increase your humidity.
Yeah. So to summarise it all, basically, what we're trying to say is there's a lot of different things that you can implement to help you out and assist you growing. There's the basic things that what you're definitely going to need, extraction, but then there's other things what we mentioned like fan speed controllers. These are pieces of equipment and tools that you can add on into your grow room that can help you along the way. But helping you along the way is increasing your overall end result, i.e. yield or your crop.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about fan controllers because they're such a significant part of controlling the environment. We're going to show you a couple of products downstairs in a little bit. But just to round up humidity, we do go on it quite a bit, don't we?
Yeah.
Because it's that important and it's linked to temperature. Temperature and humidity are like that. And if you neglect one, then your room's just going to slow down.
Yeah.
You're not going to have death. It's not going to be the end of the room, but you're just going to be really significantly slower growth. And if you do get it wrong and you have a high humidity, you could actually have death. Actually have death.
You're actually
That's worse than having death. That's actually having death.
Yeah.
So temperature and humidity linked. Let's have a little move around and talk a little bit about temperatures.
Okay, cool.
What are you doing?
Temperature.
What are you flinging it around like you're in the Wild West?
I'm just checking my temperature.
What's your mouth? You're just full of hot air, so that I imagine that's going to shoot up pretty quick.
Well, it's saying I'm on 28 degrees on my out probe. Oh no, I've gone up to 31.1 degrees.
What have you got here?
I have got a Pro Grow hygrothermal. So basically, it's an instrument to measure the temperature, the humidity, and an out temperature. It says out, and this is the out. This is the thing that means out.
People do get confused with that.
Well, it could be quite difficult to
Figure the out.
what out to me. Maybe this big wire. So yes, this gives us in, which is this is in. This is out. Could be out anyway. Top tip is in the soil or
Top of the plant canopy.
top of the plant canopy. And that's going to be read on the out reading. And then at the bottom, we also have the RH, the room humidity, relative humidity, sorry.
I know you like to make up your own words.
But it is actually the humidity that's in the room.
It is.
It is. So that's why I always say that. Basically, the moisture in the air. Essential piece of equipment.
If you haven't got one, pause this video,
Yeah,
go to your nearest grow shop and buy one.
yeah. Should cost you between £7 and £15, depending whether some may or may not have the out probe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some may give you all kinds of measurements.
Yeah.
If you've got one, well done. Stop the video and go out and buy a second one.
Yeah.
I've actually got about 6 in the room.
And why is that?
Because the temperature at the back of this room is going to be a little bit different than the temperature at the back of the room. That back rather than that back.
Okay.
That's the front and that's the back.
Okay.
And the temperature is going to be different.
Okay.
And the humidity will be a little bit different as well.
And what about the temperature at the ceiling point to the floor?
That will tend to be a bit warmer. That will tend to be a bit cooler.
Okay, so there could be variance in temperature in the room.
Depending on how good your air movement actually is.
So is it fair to say if you've got a number of temperature readers, you could get a average temperature of your
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
You could have that in a room, in a part of your room that's just a little bit hot. Could be
Yeah.
in the middle of the room where all the light's focused.
Yeah.
And you're going, oh, it's too hot, it's too hot. You turn your extraction up, you get more cold air coming in, and the temperature in the middle of the room drops to something nice. But the outside of the room now has become really cold, and when the lights go off, it goes really cold. You start to get purple stems, the plants don't drink anymore. It's just a nightmare. So it's good to know the whole environment of the room.
Also, temperature points as well is when your lights are going off, you need to also make sure you're monitoring the temperature at that time and stop it. Don't just think, oh, the lights are gone off, we don't need to worry now because at least they're not going to be very hot. What you've got to worry about as well is if you've still got extraction on, which you should have, your room's going to seriously decrease in temperature. Yeah. So are your plants getting too cold now? Do you need to, as Stephen said, add an additional heater system? Or also, we've mentioned before with timers and contact timers that they have additional features such as a heater feature. So any heaters that you do plug into these, when the lights go off, these automatically come on. So
talking about the Davins, aren't you?
Yeah, we are.
Good piece of contact kit.
This simple little piece of equipment is giving you some vital data that you need to know. As being, we always say, like the weatherman, you need to be the weatherman, and you need to, as you were doing there, steer your plants the way you want them to be.
Exactly.
Now, when you're not there, you don't know what's going on, so you have to rely on certain pieces of information to tell you. Now, these are one of the key pieces of equipment that is going to give you the accurate data, what you need whilst you're away. So when you come back, you can check and you will know exactly what's been going on.
You picked up there, if your environment is your grow room, or the environment within your grow room is the car, then this £10 piece of kit is the steering wheel, your humidity and your temperatures. Without the steering wheel, you can still move the car forwards and backwards, and you can go at different speeds, but how on earth are you actually going to go in any other direction other than forwards and backwards?
You need to be able to manoeuvre this car in all different ways because there's going to be curves and corners up ahead and some bumpy roads ahead.
There's going to be a pothole, definitely.
Definitely. And without these equations and these temperatures and these humidity readings, you are not going to be able to put in place the safeguards and the things that you're going to need to do to make sure your plant has a successful life.
You can't steer around that pothole.
No.
So we know temperature's important.
Key.
But how do we know what's too high and what's too low? What is too high?
Well, too high is a temperature that is basically your plants are not going to thrive in it. It's not a temperature that they like. So firstly, you got to know what plants you grow.
Yeah.
But mainly plants, they don't really like past 27, 28 degrees. Some of them, a lot of them can hack it, but
You've got to understand your plants.
Yeah, you've got to understand your plants first of all. You need to make sure that your plant's not living in a temperature that's too high. So if your plant is living in a temperature that's too high, you need to make some changes.
Now, when we said 27, 28, I know that some of you watching will be going, my room's always at 29 and everything's fine. And you're right. So what we're trying to say is, as the temperatures get higher, that your car, we love the car analogy, you start to drive your car a lot faster.
Yeah.
And when you get to 31, 32, you're driving your car at 150 mile an hour.
Yeah.
You hit that pothole,
Yeah.
it's not going to end well.
No.
At 29 degrees, you're driving pretty fast, but you can probably handle any little potholes. But as soon as you start going above that, then it's not good for the plants. When you're just driving your car at 26, 27 degrees, you're driving 70 mile an hour, you're keeping within the
Nice and
legal
safe,
limit.
yeah.
Nice and safe. Potholes, not a problem. Car moves in out in front of you, not a problem. You can brake in plenty of time.
Yeah.
And this is what we're trying to say about temperatures. You can go higher, but you're going to have more problems.
Yeah.
What's the low end of the temperatures?
Well, there's a 10-degree drop. You don't want to have more than a 10-degree temperature drop. So if your temperature is at 26 degrees, you do not want your temperature to go any lower than 16 degrees.
And that's absolute maximum. If I was to talk about a perfect world, I'd probably say a 5-degree swing.
Yeah.
So 26 with the lights on, 21 with the lights off is quite nice. The bigger the swing in temperature, the bigger the stretch in the plants as well.
Yeah.
And you do not want stretch. So if you've got that 15-degree swing, just imagine that stretch getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And really don't want to go below 18 degrees Celsius when the lights are off, because that's just too cold. All the processes within the plant, they really slow down. Your plants are going to slow down. And in your media, when your media gets cold, it can't uptake phosphorus, and that's what your red, you know, when people get red stems, that's a key indicator that your temperatures are going too low or the swing in temperature is too high, because when the media is too cold, phosphorus uptake's limited, and what happens is in the stems, sugar stops, sugar's transported when the temperatures are
Everything
right.
just slows down and stops, basically.
So when that temperature goes too low, phosphorus and the sugars stop within the plant and they crystallise and cause that purpling.
Yeah.
However, not all the time. Some plants genetically can have a purple coloration. So don't always, just use it as one of your tools.
Yeah.
It's a good chance that if there is purple stems on a plant that doesn't normally go purple, that you've got too cold temperatures.
So how do we increase temperatures?
So first thing that you can do is add more light. If you've got the space, throw up another light, because it's going to add more light, more yield. It's also going to add the extra, it's going to get that temperature up there to the nice zone.
What else can we do?
Air intake, we can time them so that when the lights go off, our intakes is also going off. So the cold temperature that we're bringing in from outside, we're no longer bringing it in.
Okay.
And that's going to help the temperature drop.
But there's some good top tips. How do we then decrease the temperatures?
Well, this is a good way. There's a few points for decreasing temperatures. So let's start. So to decrease the temperatures, there's a few points to make. Firstly, make sure you do your calculations properly in the first place. So you know that your fan and your filter are going to be able to take away those high temperatures created by your lights.
Secondly, have your lights on in the night time when it's the coolest.
Thirdly, when you're bringing your air in, during the winter, bring it in from the outside where it's coolest. And in the summer, maybe think about bringing your air in from a cool room within the house, as the cool room is normally a bit cooler than outside in those hot summer temperatures.
Fourthly, using CO2 can help reduce the temperature.
Fifthly, use an additive like silica. It can help strengthen cell walls, and it means when the temperatures get high, the plant's not going to wilt because it can hold a lot more of its water.
Sixthly, look into air-cooled shades or vented shades. This can help reduce the temperature as well around the light zone and around the top of the plant.
Seventhly, air conditioning works really well, but it can also drop the humidity. So be aware and make sure you've got your humidity bang on.
Eighthly, invest in digital ballast so you can dim down the light to a lower wattage, which will reduce the temperature.
Ninthly, if you've reduced them all the way down, you're going to just have to turn a few lights off. It's better to have lights off than to have too high a temperature.
Tenthly, this is getting silly, this now. Hey, isn't it?
I think we should have just done bullet points.
Yeah.
Tenthly,
Let's round it off. Just keep your temperatures in the right zone and everything will be heavenly.
I like what you did there. A little rhyme and master, aren't you?
Tenthly is heavenly.
Tenthly is heavenly. 10 bullet points to keeping the temperatures down and making sure your environment is spot on. What are you breathing in?
Not CO2.
Air.
Air.
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
About 0.03% is actually carbon dioxide, and that's the part that plants want. And plants, like we breathe oxygen, or we breathe air that contains oxygen, plants really want the carbon dioxide, and without it, they're just not going to grow. I mean, how well are you going to grow if I just do this to you? Oh, sorry, I thought you were T2 for a second then.
No, not very well at all, eh?
No. So, to give the plants the best ability that they can and the best environment to grow in, we want to supplement the CO2.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
Well, I've got some CO2 in the bag. This is a product called the Exhale CO2 bag.
CO2?
CO2.
Is this Australian CO2?
Yeah. So this is the Exhale CO2 bag. Basically, it has a little plastic thingy-majig.
I like the
comes
technical word for that.
Yeah, and
Good
it
thingy
comes
majig.
flat pack, and it only has this fungi at the top of the bag. What you do is you push the fungi so it's then in with all of this dusty stuff, and then
Sawdust.
dusty stuff.
The
And-
technical word for sawdust.
Yeah, it's T's technical word. And then we place that across there. Do not pull off this patch, what some people do, because that just knackers the whole thing and it will not be good to use.
Another technical word by Thomas there. Knackers.
Yes, and this will slowly let out the CO2. This bag, once hanging somewhere between the light and the top canopy of the plant, this bag will puff out, yes, and we'll get you'll see some moisture on it. That's how you know the bag is working. At the moment, the bag is not working because it's nice and flat like this.
Yeah. These bags are great for in veg. So that patch there is really the crucial part of it all. The patch is going to allow the CO2, and it's heavier than their CO2, so it will drop onto the plants.
Yeah.
Now, I know some of you watching will go, well, when my extraction's really high, it's going to suck the CO2 right out. Well, I've got a solution for your very problem. When the plants are young, we shouldn't really have extraction on 100% because it's going to suck the humidity out, and you want high humidity when they're young plants.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. Hang the bag above the plants, allow the CO2 to drop, and they will really thank you for it.
Yeah.
But don't throw the bag out when you're taking your extraction up. All I do, and this is not right, not wrong, put it underneath the plant.
Top tip.
So when you turn the extraction up, the air will be brought up through the plants, the CO2 will be brought up through the plants, and you can utilise the CO2 given out. So that's how I do it.
Yeah.
And that's not from a book or anything,
Yeah.
that's just how I think extraction of air being moved up through the plants, and the CO2 can be moved up.
If I'm correct as well, I think that bag gives out about 600 ppm.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that will last for about
6 months. 6
months.
Yeah. And if in case you're wondering, the air that we breathe at the moment is between 300 and 400 parts per million CO2. So it's a nice little additive for the small plants.
Okay.
What about mature plants, though, older plants?
Okay. Well, we have a funny looking product here. It's TNB CO2 enhancers, and also comes, you can buy refills for these.
Yep.
Basically, plastic bottle, it's got a sticker on the top. You basically unscrew the top, put some water in to the allocated area, and it's got some,
There you go.
is it yeast?
Sugar,
Sugar?
yeast,
Yeah.
and there should be some little black particles in there, I'm sure, as well, and that slows down the response as well. So sugar, yeast, when you add lukewarm water, it creates a reaction and it creates CO2.
Go in every other day, give it a shake, and this will increase the CO2 level to 1200 ppm.
Yeah, when it's first activated, it doesn't, it slowly drops off.
Yeah. How long do these last for? A couple of weeks?
A couple of weeks. If you're shaking it every day, these will last for 2 weeks. If you want to make them last a bit longer,
Yeah.
shake them every other day, and they can last you between 3 and 4 weeks.
Really good about these, you can buy a top.
Yeah, you know what I
Probably
love about
full.
the top up is I actually weighed this bottle with the content. I weighed the contents of the bottle,
Okay.
and then I weighed this, and this was significantly heavier than the content. So you're buying the bottle, and it gives you a lot of CO2. It's just nice that the refill is just giving you, if not the same, giving you more.
A bit
of the
extra.
product, a bit extra. That's £30 RRP, and that's £20 RRP. So do not throw your bottles away, and don't think you can just buy the refill and put it in a tank. The real innovative part about this bottle is the tiny hole at the top, the height of the bottle, so allowing the reaction to take place and the CO2 to come out.
Yeah, cool.
Really good products.
Yeah.
I'm going to shake all the sugar off.
What have you got for us?
I've got the next level.
You've got the more intricate stuff, more expert level stuff, haven't you?
Expert level.
Okay, let's have a look.
This is those products are an introduction to CO2.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in something like a closed room or you're in a really big room and buying multiples of TMB or buying multiples of the exhale bag just isn't worth it for you, then you're going to have to buy bottles of CO2.
Okay.
Gaseous CO2, the big cylinders you can
Yes.
get. And there's no point just buying the bottle and just opening it up. That's not going to do anything for your plants. You've got to regulate the amount of CO2 it gives.
And you've got to emit it into the air.
Exactly. And there's a
Okay.
couple of products. Well, there's one product with a couple of features. It's the Ecotechnics Evolution Controller. Really good piece of kit. And this is the one piece of kit I would recommend for CO2 regulation. You will put this onto the top of your canister. This is the regulator. This is going to tell, well, it's not going to tell, this will tell this how much CO2 that the room wants. This is going to regulate, stop and start the CO2. You're going to tell you the amount of pressure within the bottle, and that comes with this piece of kit. This is a big blue ball.
Big blue ball. And what do we do with the big blue ball?
That's your sensor. You hang it in your room, just near the top of the canopy. Probably I would have it not as far away. I wouldn't have it by your extractor, and I wouldn't have it as close to you. I wouldn't have it very close to your bottle. I would have it in the middle of the room. And what this is going to do, this sensor tells this box how much CO2 is in the room, and this box will tell this regulator whether to decrease or increase the amount of CO2.
They're all talking to one another.
They're all talking to one another.
Okay.
Now this is just, I don't even know of any other piece of kit. This has been on the market for many years.
Yeah.
Really good, safe product.
Most prominent one, isn't it?
Definitely the most prominent one. And talking about CO2, the reason that we've brought it into environment is because it's what plants breathe. It's a
part
very
of their
important
environment.
aspect. It is. And the nice feature about CO2 is we've been talking about temperatures, and we said that if you've got high temperatures, you include CO2. So it's like for when we're doing races up mountains, we have Everest. When we go up Everest, as we do every weekend.
Every weekend.
Yeah, we have oxygen bottles because it helps us breathe, helps us perform at our best.
Yeah.
We want our plants to perform at the best, so we give them CO2. And this is the pieces of kit that you'll need.
Okay, cool.
My top tip is 1200 ppm. Try not to go over 1200 ppm. You can maximum go up to 1500 ppm, but it's a bit of give and take. You don't know whether you're just wasting CO2. So 1200 parts per million is a really good spot to have your plants at.
Top tip for me for CO2 is, rather than all of these big expensive emitters and stuff and gas bottles and stuff, is the CO2 bag. It's a top tip for me. If you're having problems
Like me.
with temperature sometimes, or in the summer months your plants are struggling because you can't quite get them equations spot on, add some CO2.
Okay.
And preferably, in my favour, is the CO2 bag, because it's cheap, it's effective, and it lasts for quite a long time, and you get your bang for your buck.
Okay, very nice. Now, just before we wrap up CO2, you pointed out a little leaf to me, and it was my fault. I forgot to mention it during humidity.
Was it this leaf?
That leaf exactly.
Okay, so
Can we show them?
can we? Shall we?
Yeah.
So here, if I rub this leaf,
Genie appears.
no.
You break the leaf in half. You're too an aggressive of a rubber.
If we can see, can you clearly see that difference there?
I can. Let me hold it up to the camera.
Okay, you go for that. Can you see that? You can actually see on my pants, to be honest with you. Can you see
yeah,
where
as
it's
you've rubbed it
left the residue?
Yeah.
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 So, what is that, Steve?
So this.
Can you explain what that is? That I have found this little residue on all of our plant leaves.
I can absolutely explain. And what it is, we started our humidifier when we started up the lab. And being from Liverpool, our water is good water. Now, my man at Hydrologic would tell me off for saying,
Well,
I've got good water.
Some people from other cities across the country might say there's something up with our water.
Yeah, it
Maybe-
gives us
may-
weird accents.
Yeah, maybe that's because we talk this way. It's because of our water.
But when I talk about good water, what I mean is it hard or is it soft water? We've got soft water. it comes out the tap at EC 0.2, which means that there isn't much calcium and magnesium.
So that's what soft water means.
That's what soft water. Hard water, it's got an excess of calcium and magnesium. It's what fires up the kettles in London, and it's what means that you've got to scrub your hair extra hard when you're in London showers to get it to lather up. Oh, that's hard water.
Okay.
But even in our really lovely soft water area, we've still got calcium magnesium. So I fill up the water butt, and the humidifier is pumping it all out, but it's leaving this white residue, which is calcium and a little bit of magnesium. So I got Hydrologic in, and I've got to show you this piece of kit. Pre-carbon and a sediment filter. Essentially what this is going to do is remove all of the calcium, remove all the magnesium, remove any minerals that happen to be in our tap water, so that I can fill my humidifier, and when it's doing its job in the room, I'm not going to get any of this deposits on the plant. It's not the end of the world, but if these deposits build up to a point where it's blocking the stomata, they're not going to be able to breathe properly, and they can't uptake the CO2. So there's the little link up
So
between
this is
and CO2.
basically just a filter.
Yeah, a really good filter.
So to use all of the water in your room.
Exactly.
So you'd attach that to your water source, and basically any water, all your water then runs through that,
Exactly.
through both of these filtery looking things. And basically when we would be spraying out our humidity, we would no longer have this calcium deposit if we was using this piece of equipment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, I haven't set this up yet because Barry Builds told me expressly, Stephen, you're not allowed to touch this
Yeah,
banner.
you are not authorised for any building.
No, so for those of you that have been sending me the messages saying, when on earth is Barry coming back? Because we love Barry Builds.
He's back soon.
He's back very soon. In season 2, he'll be opening up this and letting you all know how it works.
Yeah, he's going to be doing quite a few things as well, Barry Builds.
It is. So look forward to that. I just needed to make sure that I mentioned Hydrologic because it's going to be getting installed in the next few weeks so we can rectify our calcium deposit problem.
Yes.
Good. So to cap it all off, we know what our temperatures are. We know what our humidity should be. We know how we should position our extraction and why extraction is important. And we also know what plants breathe, CO2. Now, something that's really important but doesn't seem important, I've got to mention it, is getting the room as homogeneous as possible. That's the right word, homogeneous. Homogeneity is what we want in our room.
So basically what he's trying to say is haven't told us about air movement. So what we're going to speak about now is moving the air around the room.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I thought so. So here we've got some, you can see me holding a clip fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got a desktop fan.
Yeah.
And also we have another fan here. Yeah, interesting. Very nice.
I thought it'd keep you cool.
It's got some setting. It's got one setting on there to
This is
oscillate, which means it moves around.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Can we switch it off now?
Why are you a bit hot?
Yeah.
You're a bit cool, I should say. You look cool to me.
So, enough of that. So, why do we need to move the air around?
Because we can have hot spots.
Okay.
Hot air will move to the top of the room and cold air will tend to sink because it's heavier. So if we have cold air in the bottom, hot air in the top, and we also have our lights positioned above our plants, we can have hot spots within the plant.
Yeah.
We can have CO2 amongst the plants, and our humidity can also be different. We can have hot spots, cold spots, low humidity, high humidity. We want this whole room to be the same. We want it to be as even as possible because that means even growth within the whole room rather than really good plants in the middle or on the outside and really poor shriveled plants in the hot spots of the room.
Okay, what would you recommend pointing a oscillating fan directly at a plant?
Definitely not.
Why not?
Because at the worst, you're going to get windburn. I actually had some people message me when I spoke about this on the forum saying, you cannot get windburn, it's impossible. You absolutely can't get windburn.
Really?
If you position a plant in front of the fan, then you'll notice that the edges will tend to go brown.
Yeah.
You remove, could you stand having a fan pointed at your face when you're trying to work like that?
No.
A really powerful fan. Because it's just uncomfortable. No. It's uncomfortable for plants as well. So it's not good to do. I would position them between where the top of the lights and between the top of the plant and the bottom of the light, moving that air around there.
Okay.
A little slight movement on the plants is okay.
Yeah.
But nothing where they're getting bent and twisted out of shape.
Well, a lot of people have seen the where they point the the fan at the plant and it strengthens the plant up. It does actually do that. And
It does.
That is a tip. However, if you continuously point the fan at the plant, you're going to remove its climate around, its microclimate around the plant.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to create humidity in the vegetative period, you've got this fan blowing directly at your plant, you are going to blow the humidity away. It's microclimate.
Yeah.
So pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to where you're putting your oscillating fans and where they're situated in the room. What we do want is a nice little breeze. We don't mind a little breeze on the plants. No intensity on them. And we want to make sure that you're circulating the air around the room and the CO2 around the room evenly. That's the whole point of an oscillating fan.
Definitely. And there's a little argument as well, though, that says that when you've got plants moving because of the fans being used and they're moving aggressively, and then the response to that is, I'm strengthening the stem, which it does do. Think about it. The plant has only got so much energy from the light that you're giving it. Where do you want the energy to grow? Do you want to go towards a really fat stem, or do you want to go towards leaf production, chlorophyll production, and then flower production? You want the best out of your plants. You want to get the best yields. At the end of the day, I don't know many people that are selling trunks or stems. How many people sell stems? So as long as your plant's strong enough to be able to support its fruits, it doesn't need a super huge stem.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend the energy on and get me yields up there.
Plus some of the additives that we have mentioned on other parts.
We'll do that job for you.
We'll do that job for you without having to stress the plant out to think, oh, I'm being attacked because somebody's trying to blow me over. Mm-hmm. This big high force gale wind is come to blow me down. So I need to make sure I stand firm, use every piece of energy that I have got so I can stand tall and proud in this big, big, windy point of time.
Yeah. There's a couple of options as well for air movement. We have the floor fan, or something that's going to help move the air around the floor. You can point this up, it will oscillate, moving the air around the room quite effectively. This is a monkey fan from Secret Garden. 2 little clips on it.
Yeah, we've got 2 adapters with this one. This one is a little tent adapter. So basically you clip it on the pole and the rubber hole sits on the pole and you can unscrew that, unscrew this piece, and that will then be on the pole on the corner of your tent. Not bad. Also, it has a clamp that does work, like so.
When you put it onto its proper position of its
Yes,
tent, not on a chair.
Yes. Well, if you was to hold your hand out, no, hand, right? And imagine state is a tent or a wall. Pretty easy to imagine.
Ow! Did you see it jump there? That actually does hurt a little
He's
bit.
always messing around. So, look, there's the state and there's the fan. Excellent. And you could clip that anywhere, couldn't you?
Yeah.
In the summer months when it gets a bit hot, you never know, anywhere.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Mobile, keep you cool, hat extension accessory.
Then we've got a floor fan. What's unique about this one is it's a slimline.
Slimline.
Yeah. And also, this actually rotates, so it spreads the air out everywhere.
It does. This has got a little timer on it, although I'll be quite honest, I never use the timer on this because it only gives you a timer of 2 hours. So this will oscillate for 2 hours and then turn off. So just have it on permanently.
Yeah.
You've got stop, l'ouvre, which is French for move.
Okay.
You didn't know I spoke French, did you?
No.
I'm just guessing. And so off and move, which is a nice feature. The best thing about this fan is it's pretty indestructible. You can actually, you might be thinking, well, it's only good for the floor. No, turn it upside down, put 2 hangers on the feet, and it works upside down.
Yeah.
They're pretty indestructible.
Good piece of kit.
We've never ever had one of those fans.
Very
come
cheap
back.
as well, 25 quid.
Exactly.
Yeah, lasts for ages, never breaking.
Or if you're really special, I know they're £25 each. Thomas does a special for his friends, 2 for 50.
Yeah.
So they're getting a massive
Only
discount
while
there.
stocks last.
So that's air movement. Super important to get your room as even as possible. I'm going to talk about fan speed controllers because once this is all done, you know how important getting the environment right is. Something that is important to maintain and for you to be able to control the environment is a fan speed controller.
Yeah.
And some of the features that they've got. So I'm going to go down there and show you some fans, my anemometer, which I recently bought. I'm very happy with it. and we're going to geek out and do some fan speed control tests downstairs.
So we've just been upstairs with myself and Thomas. We're talking about temperatures, humidity, CO2, the right places for your air and extraction, the correct place for the intake and the outtake being at opposite ends. Now, we mentioned that if sometimes it can get a little bit cold, then you're going to want to dim your fans and your extraction fans. And some of the ways that you can do this is by using fan speed controllers. I thought it's worthwhile mentioning a couple rather than going too much in depth, just show you some of the options available to you to control your room. First off is your basic fan controller. These are really cheap. They're not going to hold too much. These are really for your 4, 5, 6 inch RVKs. For your really good high powered fans, it works because these run at a really low amperage. So if you plug it in, I know that this actually isn't going to work at all because I played with the Ice Max before and it worked. Plugged it into the box fan, which is a high amperage, and it blew it straight away. So I'm going to show you with the new one that I got. Then this will work straight away. I like to keep it fancy with the Ice Max ball as well. And that's on full speed. If I dim that down, you can probably hear the humming. And that's only a 1480 Ice Max fan. When you start getting to 2500s and 3000s, the 3300s, the humming gets much worse. So that's why we don't use these dimmers on our high powered fans. But it also goes to show how good Ice Max are because it's a low amperage. This really small £10 can control a fan, but at the cost of noise, and you've got to do big movements to get any sort of response from the fan. If we take that out and plug the box fan in, put it on half speed, you may notice it goes straight away. Just blew it instantly. That's straight out the packaging, blew it instantly. Not working at all now. So, be very careful with these dimmers. I'd only recommend them for 4, 5, 6 inch fans. Even pushing it if you take them to 8 and 10 inch fans, the amperage that goes through them just blows them, so try and stay away from these unless you're using your 4 and your 5, 6 inch fans. An improvement on those, and something that you should at the very least be using, is the Rhino silent fan controller. Now this is much better because, as we'll see, when we plug in the fan, it won't hum at all because it uses step control, goes up in 20% increments. That's straight onto full power. %, 60%, 40%, and 20%. If you listen, there's no humming. Really quiet, really good controller. And this will control your intake and your outtake. There's 2 amp and there's 8 amp varieties as well. So there's something for every size fan. And off. This one is the hybrid controller, 4 amp. Thermometer probe. And light probe as well. So this is a really good fan because not only does it measure temperature and will increase the fan speed or decrease the fan speed depending on what temperature you set it at, it also recognises that when the lights go off, temperatures are going to drop. So it will reduce your fan speed to the minimum fan speed that you've set it on here. But not only that, when it also realises that humidity can increase when the lights go off. So what it does is it steps it up by 1 point for 7 minutes every hour. So it's going to get rid of that excess humidity, but still keep the temperatures higher than it would be if it was on full speed. SMS, your rocks of fan control, and they've been around for many years, and it's a really good piece of kit to get into your room for control. Second to last, we have the Control Freak. This is by Maxi, and how this works, it works on 50 Hertz, and what other fan speed controllers can do is stretch out the waves, and what this does is it keeps the sine wave and clips it, so it's not going to distort the fan. You get no humming whatsoever, and this is just a bit of a step up from something like SMS because there's so much control. You can see manual, auto, minimum, maximum fan speeds, bandwidth, or hysteresis as some call it. It's going to give you a lot of options. It's a bit more in depth and requires probably a 5-10 minute video to show you how to use it by itself. But this is something this is your next generation of fan speed controllers. And really good solid piece of kit. And we'll be doing a video on this one in the future showing you exactly how to use it. Last but not least is the GHC Pro Grow controller. If we plug this in, so many settings, it can be quite complicated unless you read instructions. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an instructional video in the next season and show you exactly how to get the most out of this controller. But the reason that this is the top dog in fan speed controllers, intake, outtake for your AC fans, and also has the bottom there for your EC fans. So it will control AC intakes, and we'll do your EC fans on your outtakes. Now AC and EC is another whole episode in itself. We're moving from AC fans, we're starting to move towards EC fans. So this controller is first to market to control both, and it's got some really nice features. The temperature and humidity probe here is really good, very responsive to humidity. And again, this type of fan controller probably requires a whole video just to go through the basics of what this does. But it's the GHC Pro Grow controller, multi-fan, AC, EC, and that. There's going to be a couple coming out like this. This is the next generation of fan speed controllers. So hopefully that gives you a little insight on how you can control, the parameters of where it should be in terms of your temperature, humidity, CO2. And these are some of the basics that you can use to start to be able to control your environment and control those steering wheels as well. So that's it for fan speed control. That's it for environment. I think I'll join Thomas back up on the desk. He's starting to get a little bit impatient up there, so we'll go up and we'll round off episode 9. Well, that's the end of episode 9 and the environment. Do me a favour though, when you walk into your room and the thermometer says 32 degrees, don't just hope, wish and dream that those temperatures are going to come down. Just use some of the things that I've talked about in this episode and get those temperatures down properly.
On another note, have you seen T2 anyway?
Nope.
Because I've given the truncheon and I need it back.
The truncheon?
Yeah.
That magic truncheon?
Yeah.
Tune in next week, 6 o'clock, episode 10. We're talking about lighting. Don't be late.